alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Muttering for it. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
I love you.
I know.
Go! Get to the chopper!
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I see dead people.
Milk was a bad choice.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Be a Movie Snob. I feel like I should be talking in either a French accent or a British accent or somewhere in between.
I want to hear both.
I will try to offend everyone in that area.
Off-stream,
yeah.
Mr. Lemontov.
Exactly right. Oh.
Equal opportunity offender.
As long as someone in the war that made the ridiculous language that is the Queen's English gets offended, I'll be happy. I'll be very, very much right. Quite right.
Pretty sure it's one of our listeners anyway.
So this film, we have a film, guys. Guess what, listeners?
We watched
a movie. This may surprise you, but we went out, we did it, and we are going to talk about it today, right now, for your very ear fulfillment. That's where I'm going,
That's a Kermit?
It was trying to be Robin Williams and a little Aladdin, but I can't do that. Yeah, so we'll do a little first thing, just so the listener can get to know us a little bit. You guys been watching anything lately? Anything else besides the movie that I assigned to you, or else on penalty of shame?
Yeah.
Because you know what I've been watching?
What have you been watching?
I've been watching a lot of F1, folks. I know, it's super surprising.
I just got done watching Red Rose on Netflix.
Ooh, how is that?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good. Okay. Solid creepiness.
Oh,
a little suspensey.
It is that time of year.
A little bit of twist.
I've been watching a lot of horror.
Yeah, this is the month.
Yes, well, it isn't for you listeners. Listeners, this is probably November, but for us, it's still October.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Been trying to churn through all that, the time of year has to offer horror-wise.
Oh, please, what have you gone through this week or two? I'd love to hear this, Pat.
No One's Going to Save You is a Hulu alien one.
Nice.
That was interesting. The Blackening, which came out last year.
Yeah,
I actually really enjoyed.
That's on Max? No.
I watched. What did I watch?
Hey, Max.
Prime, YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
But that was pretty funny. Slasher satire.
Good.
Race centric in a way that, as a very white guy, I felt okay about. Which
Good.
I think that was fine. I think that was intentional. What else? I don't know. Quite a few things.
That's cool. I've been watching the show Community a little bit. Jumped back into that. And I adore Abed so much and all of his movie references. It is more fun to watch now that I do this podcast. I'm not going to lie. Because I know basically every reference he has.
As nerdy as he is.
Oh, it's so good. And you just miss it.
I think I did 2 seasons and stopped.
Well, after, I think it's season 3 or season 4, where you lose Chevy Chase and Donald Glover, which is heartbreaking. But I have to say, there are still gems upon gems after that. Like, they have a whole claymation episode. No, 2 claymation episodes.
Well, Dan Harmon left the show, I think, in season 3, and then maybe came back season 4 or 5.
I think he came back season
kind of a weird
4 or 5. Yeah,
there's a weird, not as great season.
Yes.
That might have been when I trailed off.
Yeah, it is.
I think Community just has very high highs.
Oh, it's so good.
The paintball episode.
Oh. The fort
Blanket
episode.
Fort
my goodness.
So
the one where he's playing a movie inside a movie for his birthday, like that was just so good.
Yeah, Abed directing his life.
Oh, no. So that's been my it's been a little like, oh, hey, being a movie snob helps me enjoy other aspects of media. So that was a little insider there for you. Okay, folks, but let's get back to the point at hand. Enough with us. I mean, we're great and all, but You know what else is
go
great?
On and on. We don't have time for this.
We don't have time for this movie. We just want to talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
But this movie is a doozy, Mariah. I feel like we have to really...
I agree with dooziness.
Jump in. So this movie is not just about a pair of clothing, but so much more. This came out the same year. Oh, please hope I'm correct on this. As another
Best
movie,
Years of Our Lives,
and a movie we've also.
Oh, the
Christmas
one we
movie,
watched.
whatever.
Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
A lot of movies came out this
was
year.
a great year of movies. It was a really great, like the Oscars for this year in movies was jam packed. This movie is a dancing movie. Quite a bit of dancing. Quite a bit of dancing.
Dance-centric kind of movie.
And this movie is sad. It is also possibly a sad movie.
It has some sad parts.
Or is it?
It wants to be sad.
Yeah.
Ooh, there it goes. Well, folks, if you haven't guessed it, we are talking about the
1948 The Red Shoes.
The Red Shoes. Thank you, Mariah, for all things numbers. That is the money maker,
And I'm
Mariah.
out.
And she's gone. See you next week, Mariah.
Yeah.
As always, folks, we start with hot takes and cold brews. And coming first from Seattle, Washington, home of your Seattle Supersonics. Once upon a time.
Maybe again someday. So for a movie that was so reliant on visuals, I think it did way too much telling and not enough showing. That's my hot take.
That's interesting.
We can dig into that. We can dig into what that means.
Yeah.
That's my take.
My hot take is this is the best dance movie ever made. As usual, I go positive. Pat goes negative. But
everybody thinks that.
I know it's not a hot. Well, you know why it was a hot take to me? Because I didn't know that. I thought like Singing in the Rain was the best dance movie of all time. Because we actually said that for our Singing in the Rain episode. So the only reason it's a hot take for me is because I didn't know this makes Singing in the Rain look like a musical.
Yeah. I guess my hot take is Hans Christian Andersen stories are not for children.
Yeah.
Truth.
At all.
Because this was not as bad as the Hans Christian Andersen version.
No.
Yes.
No, that was much weirder.
More grim.
Gross.
Oh. Do you know that? How does that one end? They reference it in the film, right?
No.
Feet off.
Scorsese
chopped her
talks about
feet off.
it.
That's right.
They chopped her feet off to get her to be able to stop dancing, and she tried to go to church, and the shoes with her feet still in them danced in front of the door and wouldn't let her enter church.
That would have been
a couple times. so she finally gives up trying to go to church and stays at home and prays, and an angel shows up and sends her. Anyway, she gets to go to heaven, and they don't ask her anything about the shoes. She was really a spoiled brat. That's why she lost her feet. That's why she had the shoes dancing.
Parents, don't spoil your kids or they're going to lose their feet. That's true.
Yeah, that's not quite how this one worked out.
No.
But,
Well, pretty close, though. I don't know. Feel kind of same.
Similar.
Shoes,
Similarity.
someone dies.
Yeah, pretty much.
I have a secondary hot take. Is I liked this better as Black Swan.
Oh, that was it. I was actually going to go there. I was like,
secondary.
I was going to say, this was better when Natalie Portman did it. The real Black Swan with red shoes. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I liked it better as Whiplash.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, same.
Stretchy.
Oh, come on. Boom.
Oh, hey, man.
All right, next up, this is unsponsored. Oh, sorry, I gave away the joke already. Sponsored by no one. This is the Summarizer, unsullied by sponsorship since 2022. Mariah, what the heck happens in the red shoes? You already gave us a summary of the story, which is gruesome.
Yeah, that the ballet is based on.
Ugh.
In the movie.
The ballet.
Yeah, we've got some youngsters, looking to make it big as a dancer, as a composer. A lot of
36-year-old college student.
Yeah.
Ooh, for real.
36-year-old, 19-ish-year-old. Trying to make it big. So the movie starts out, there's a performance, and the professor is the conductor in it, and they can't wait to hear his new music. Well,
at least the composer.
The composer. So the students show up.
Not the conductor.
The music starts, and some of this music sounds very familiar to one of the students.
Wah, wah.
It's been taken away from him.
Stolen.
So he gets up and walks out. Also in the theater that night is a young dancer who wants to be a ballerina.
As we all do.
Yeah. So,
Pat, you know what I'm talking about.
they both end up talking to the old head of the company guy, and he says, well, I'm doing a new ballet based on the Red Shoes. I want you to compose it. I want you to dance or show up and dance in the company. She ends up getting the part. He ends up composing it. They become famous together. They also fall in love, which the head guy hates. Cannot stand love in the company.
No, because
ruins
he lost
everything.
Everything.
Hates it.
He's not wrong in that, by the way.
Well, and very early on, there's a lot of like, this needs to be the most important thing to you.
There's a lot of
Because
emphasis.
it's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
And so that's why love is no good.
Yeah. You must. In the end, she has to make a choice. Does she keep dancing and become the best dancer she can be at the best company she can dance at? Or does she stay with her new husband and kind of be a little supportive of him, I guess? And dance a little bit.
Matt, don't dance as much, maybe.
Yeah.
It gets real, like, sketchy once we get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like, whoa.
The
why
point
is
where they're
everyone
both
so black and white
super
about-
narcissistic, egotistical, abusive.
The other movie that this is A Star is Born.
An American in Paris.
This is A Star is Born for dance. And that's probably what my hot take should have been. Because
late.
the whole time I was watching, I'm like, hey, old guy, young gal. But then it was like two people, but still kind of the same plot. So, yeah.
Anyway, she seemingly makes a choice to dance. And then on her way to the stage, she changes her mind. Well,
because boyfriend comes in. Oh, husband comes in.
She
and says,
just can't take the pressure. So she runs on outside, jumps in front of a train, and dies.
Or do the shoes?
The shoes?
You took that hot take already, because that's yeah.
There's a lot of speculation about did she kill herself or did the shoes take her out.
Much like Black Swan, this is semi-horror, and it's the shoes are serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll find another dancer down the road until you're like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with a lot of dancing in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 17-minute sequence. The famous
famous
17-minute sequence.
I just
infamous.
I have to say though, what year did Singing in the Rain come out?
In the 50s.
Before, so when I saw this, I'm like, oh, Singing in the Rain is trying to do this.
Well, yeah, the long segments came after, and they were incorporated in lots of movies.
And this is so much better.
Yeah, 52.
Like
52.
This is so much better in general as a weird thing.
Yeah.
That's just so different level.
It's
a weird thing.
And Gene Kelly's the one that used it the most. In his, I mean, it's in Singing in the Rain, it's in American in Paris, it's in Brigadoon, it's in whatever else. But he really liked that.
Yeah.
I was impressed with how they went full weird.
Yeah.
Full.
Like in ways that work and ways that don't. But
they
used, like, we're pushing this.
They used a painter as the art director. Never done that before.
So good. So good. Yeah, Pat.
And let him make all those decisions.
This is an animated film. How do you feel about that?
Very artistic storyboard.
It's an animated film without like a story artist. There's not really a plot, right? Like there's not really. There's characters with motivations, and there's a ton of wonderful visuals and beautiful dancing.
Mm-hmm.
But like you kind of get from the beginning to the end, and you're like, what happened? What were the arcs these people went on? What have we learned?
It's two stories based on a ballet based on a book. It's like two kind of simultaneous, a really happy, lovey one and a very dark.
I felt like they didn't really connect in a meaningful way. That's where I get to like the movie, for as visual as it was, they had to be like, tell me what's the most important thing to you?
Yeah.
And she's like, dancing. Because you're like, okay, but like you didn't, like she showed up to practice early one time.
That meant she was serious.
She had
otherwise
an amazing performance in the rain at some small theater, so she obviously loved to dance.
Yeah, because she would do it at any old slum or something. It felt like I didn't see her commitment to dance, and until the very end, she seemed perfectly resigned in a lot of ways to like, well, no, you're a jerk. I don't really want to be around you.
Mm-hmm.
And you kicked my husband out of the show for no good reason.
Yep.
And yeah, I'll dance. I'm not dancing as much as I want to. But then it became so weird because it's like, oh, he's letting her back in. Meanwhile, apparently she did this on the DL.
Yeah.
And like was gonna hide the fact that she was in this major ballet.
I'm feeling better about my relationship with my wife when I watch this movie. I'm like, we talk, we communicate okay.
There's a lot less secrets going on here.
He abandons his opera.
His opening of his opera.
Yeah.
Yeah, to take a train to another country.
Doesn't tell her he's coming.
Well, they obviously aren't talking.
She doesn't dance. And then it became like, and then she throws herself off a building. It just escalated so
real
fast
quick.
To the point where I was like,
real quick. Okay.
And Lemontov, you're like, yeah, he's been kind of a jerk the whole time. But the husband and her
all
went
of a sudden
insane out of nowhere.
Well, she was in denial.
Yeah.
And he was getting whatever he wanted until that last part where he's like, whoa, hold the phone. We could get on a train right now. We're going. Oh, no, we're not going? Okay, bye forever.
Yeah, this is the end. I'm going to leave you.
Yeah, I think she was majorly in denial. And I think when she has the confrontation with him before she quits, she says, I never thought I would want to do anything other than dancing. I never thought I could want more. And is about to say, but now I have, both things. And he's like, no, get out.
Well, but also, she never emoted until the end. Outside of when she was dancing, right? It was never like that scene in a modern movie would have been like
she's
tears
unhinged
and like like you see how much this mattered to her, but what we got was like, yes, I'd really love to dance, and you're like, okay.
Hey,
I guess
British
I believe you.
People have less emotive presence, all right? It's just a little more subtle. This reminds me of...
Which is maybe fair, but then you throw yourself off a building into an oncoming train.
I don't condone that piece. I think maybe it was the shoes, but I do kind of identify with everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Until all of the emotions you've ever repressed in your life come out.
Fair.
But I don't think jumping off in front of the train was a good call.
I kept thinking about La La Land and thinking, just one of you compromise. Why do you both have to freaking go all the way? You can compromise. You go to your shows and you go to your jazz club. And that's what I thought the whole time of this too. I'm like, this is the problem with American cinema and relationships. It's all or nothing, folks.
What are the chances opening night of the replaying of Red Shoes and his composition the very first night happened to happen on the same day? What are the chances?
Was she not going to go to his show? She planned this vacation with her aunt, and she's going to be there for 2 weeks. So she was already going to ditch his opera opening. There's just a bunch of like, what is happening?
What is going on right now?
And so again, like that to me is like, as much as I actually really enjoyed, certainly the animation side of things, like how much they pushed the dance and they played with timing and they're speeding up the film and slowing things down. Like there's a ton of cool visuals.
Yeah, so much cool. We'll talk about that soon. Yeah, for sure.
It's it's great. It just was like, and he was doing like I thought his character felt more consistent and real throughout. But
which one, the director or the composer?
Lermontov, yeah, because he does his dramatic, I'm gonna smash this mirror scene.
And then early on, I was thinking about this of like his arc towards them when they were screaming at each other, when the composer and the gal were screaming at each other over how the beat should be. He was like Charlie Chaplin giggling in the corner. Like he's like,
this is amazing.
That was him being like, yes, this is the kind of like creative,
artistic
fighting we need for this to be the best thing it is.
Yeah.
And little did he know he was making them fall in love.
Little did he know.
Backfire.
Also, that kind of came out of nowhere. Like they set it up, right? You're going to be playing the music for her at every meal. And they showed us that for like 2 minutes.
Yep.
And then we jump cut to like they're all sleeping with a sleeping like coach driver.
Oh, that was so funny.
Through the country. And
Don't wake up the coach driver.
Who's driving this thing?
Shouldn't you wake up the driver?
I hope those horses are very dependable.
I was like, I would wake him up no matter how tired he is. That's his job. I would go back.
Like, okay. I guess they're in love. Fine.
Yeah.
I still think all of this goes back. I feel the ill-fated lovers in movies, it's so dramatic, and it's like how it has to be for some reason. From Romeo and Juliet to the latest iteration of A Star Is Born, it has to be so dramatic. It has to be you choose me or you choose whatever your dream is.
Yeah.
There's never
it's very
both.
black and white to those people.
You can't have your dreams and the woman or the man of your dreams. No. It just doesn't work. You've got to pick one or the other. And so
you can't have it all.
You can't have it all. Or you gotta, So all of that, I was like, well, that's the same ridiculousness. But I do like how love is just stupid. Like that's how I feel like I agreed with the villain. I don't know if you call him the villain. I'm like, oh yeah. No, love is childish and it gets in the way.
But he did become a villainous over the course. Again, like I think the best arc in that, like he became monstrous and like giggly and extra with like I think she came back and he went and he slapped his legs
like
and
I did it.
You're like
almost goofy,
like just so gleeful about this thing working out the way you wanted.
Yeah,
and just like leave him. You'll be better off. And it's just like, bro, like tone it down.
Yeah,
but like I appreciated that, and I feel like he ended up being our lead. I think that was kind of the other weird thing. Like, who was the real protagonist? And I guess there's 3 leads, you could argue, which is fine. But I felt like we saw his journey the most, correct? Because they left
his and her.
The city.
Yeah. I would say the composer the least.
Yeah.
Because the composer is the one you like, he followed, but really it's him and her. It felt almost like a love triangle story. Mm-hmm. Like it was those two's. Yes. And it never did go there, by the way, which I always thought it kind of would.
No, it was never romancy.
No, but it was
romancy. It was possessive.
It was, but yeah,
possessive. Yeah, love is maybe the wrong way to put it. Love triangle. Yeah, it's possession triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there's
so many ways to go.
Talk about numbers.
Yeah, let's talk about numbers. How this film do, Mariah?
Well, it went over budget, you guys.
Yep.
Oh,
the budget was...
That's super surprising for a...
I'm trying to find where I lost that. It was like 300,000 pounds or something, and it ended up costing over 500, and it went probably a couple months longer than it was supposed to. I think it was supposed to be like a 15-week shoot, and it ended up being in the 20-some weeks.
Not the worst.
And it was a slow start once it was released, because they didn't have a lot of faith in it. They didn't put any money into promoting the movie.
They lost a lot of money on Cleopatra before that.
Yeah. Oh. So they were jaded a bit. But it just hung out there, It was weeks and weeks and weeks, and people really started, to love it. And then it kind of took off, and the U.S. released it in 51, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Did I read that like they left the original prints like out on a dock in the rain or something? Like that's how little they cared about it.
Like, oops.
That's so crazy, especially how
they tried
it was.
Yeah, they tried to bury it. They were like, anyway. But yeah, it turned out I think it ended up making
pretty good money.
$5 million after in the end.
It's not bad. Yeah, the no promotion.
American. I can't convert the pounds from 48 to American dollars 48 because I'm not willing to do the research.
Yeah, that's true.
But if anyone wants to,
not willing to go to that app.
I'm not gonna.
No.
Or just ask Google.
Yeah.
How much was 1948 pounds to 2023 dollars? That's too much work.
Rounded to the nearest 15.
Yes. No, that was very interesting that it was kind of a slow burn. I like that too. I feel like so many fun movies, like the best prison movie of all time,
Shawshank
Redemption. That was a slow burn when it came out. I don't remember any of us seeing it in theaters when it came out.
No,
it was like TNT.
Yeah,
but we sure liked it later.
But then we all like, oh, it's so great. But the year it came out, no one wasn't even Oscar buzz. Like I think it got nominated, but no one cared. And then, but this one did get a bunch of Oscar buzz
and nominations, but not for any actors.
No, which is
or director.
No, or directors.
As
it is in this film.
Art direction for the first timer painter guy, and composer.
The score.
The score and the movie. Yes?
Yeah, I think so.
The movie didn't win Best Picture. I don't.
No,
it didn't. It was the best years of our lives.
No, but score and art direction won.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And definitely should have.
Which, yeah.
So cool.
That was the other side of this thing I was pretty impressed with, was just the music. I was like, oh, they're, give or take, I think Swan Lake you see for a minute, like the Red Shoes Ballet and
so good.
Where the first one was
the fire
something. Yeah, like it's very compelling. The other thing, actually, I had no clue what this movie was coming in, and so when we get to that first scene, and we have the insane student unlock for the balcony.
Yeah, from the get-go, I thought this is fun already.
It's a teen movie. Okay.
I thought somebody was going to die.
Well, yeah. They were really excited.
Front row. Mm-hmm. And then there's the kind of interesting, like, we're here for the music and we're here for the dance.
Yeah. That was great.
I kind of like that, but I was like, what is it? What is this going to be about?
Mm-hmm.
And then it took a bit until I was like, oh, it's about this ballet company of sorts and the people in it. But
what I like so much about it is that was so accurate to what the behind the scenes of a ballet company is. They do have class every day. They do let all their students get first come, first serve at these openings and get their seats that way. And
I would love to know, were dancers ever this popular? Because they're treated like movie stars in this movie. Like they're treated like the part that was kind of unbelievable to me. I'm like,
in all the dance movies I've ever seen, yes, but I'm pretty sure.
I was like, what dancer do you recognize on the street?
Like touring, though, like there were names. Of course, I can't remember any of them.
Sure.
Like the famous dancers growing up, you kind of were like, oh yeah, it's
that prima ballerina,
Lord of the Dance. I remember.
They're head of these, right? There's just names you hear,
right?
Yeah. Of the Russian ballet or something, and you're like, okay, like that doesn't mean much to me, but their names became global.
Yeah.
Yes,
so I think certainly in the European tour circuit we got to see, and with the shows you have access to, at the time, I'm sure that was they are famous-ish. They weren't getting mobbed everywhere. It was like they were in the paper.
Right. Yeah, and so I couldn't find a good like documentary on how big famous dancers were in the 50s and 40s. I was like, oh, that would be great. Let's talk about this camera, Pat.
Yeah, you guys need to talk about the camera
my
stuff.
Goodness.
Well,
so
well,
I'll talk a little bit and you can correct me as I go along. But I didn't know how Technicolor worked. In Technicolor, it's the tri-plane Technicolor camera, which means they're literally shooting 3 different sets of films in 3 different color schemes. And then they pour like the opposite color over the top of it of some sort of, I don't remember how that works. And then they mix it all and then put it on another. It's really intensive.
Like the transfer film.
Yeah, the transfer film.
And that's where you can choose how much you want to take of each color.
But this makes so much sense why those movies look so like they pop. The blue eyes pop unlike anything we see today. Because it's just a crazy thing they did.
It's been really refreshing seeing this amount of color in these movies in a way where I'm like so into it, right? Like we grew up and we're still in the era of desaturation and color grading.
So much desaturation.
Up the wazoo. And so it's like color. Like, wow, what a novel thing. Like these high dynamic, rangy feeling colors coming through is awesome.
Yes.
Like I think people got away from it. They felt like it was too, candy colored or whatever, but I think it was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Well, and one of the 2 Technicolor, the inventors, was it a couple that invented it? I know one of them had a problem with how they were doing it. They're like, they're doing it wrong. They're doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And they stuck with it and still were really happy with what they'd done. But the ones that had invented it were like, stop doing it that way.
Yeah, I think the DP, Jack Cardiff or whatever, was doing it his way. But it worked out.
Yeah.
And Jack Cardiff was like the Technicolor master. Like he's still considered like the best Technicolor DP ever.
Yeah. But didn't he only work on like 6 movies or something?
Yeah.
Sad?
Well, no, then he worked on a bunch. Like he worked all the way until the 80s? Like it went to a point where he was working and they said, hey, don't worry about that. We'll figure it out in post. Because he was like the guy that would like fog up the lens to get a cool fade in. For that shadow that was like grabbing at her, he took off the lens and so he put the shadow in front of it so he could make sure that it wouldn't like distort that. So he was such a cool practical effects guy. He's kind of famous for that.
It was amazing with nothing that we can use to, I'm like no green screen, no nothing, that he was able to pull off so much. I mean, yeah, some of it was like, oh, how did she magically get into the shoes?
Oh, but that was so great back then, too.
But it was like cool. Like that's what I was thinking. Like even for the 40s, this would have been cool.
Oh,
or dancing in the background.
Yeah, no,
he worked a bunch.
He worked forever, and he worked. And look at his discography because it's hilarious. It's like
film.
Yeah, pull up some of his later stuff. It's almost comical the stuff he worked on. Compared to Red Shoes, which is this like visual masterpiece that everyone has.
Rambo First Blood
First Blood Part 2.
Conan the
Destroyer Part 2.
I'm down for every sequel.
No, he's had a long storied career. When I was reading about him, I was like, oh, this guy's been around and done a few things.
He probably just had a really big chair to sit in and give people ideas.
No, this fool is getting. So, by the way, this camera is like what? 4.5
feet
huge. By 4.5 feet. It's just this monstrosity. And they would freaking tie it to the ceiling, use bungee cords to try to like pull it along. They were constantly moving it back and forth. Every time I see a pull or a push that's some weird angle, I'm like, or if it's shaky at all, I'm like, if it's shaky, that means some dudes are holding it, trying to pull it forward and back, probably on some janky lever
and they're
system.
So lucky no one's being crushed.
Oh, because they could all get killed like so easily. It's just hilarious. Like the stuff they did with that big old camera was phenomenal. Yeah, but that 3-plane system blew my mind. I'm like, well, no wonder they do such an amazing job of pulling out colors, because it's literally pulling out as much as you can from each one. It's like shooting now HDR. Like when you take your camera and you shoot with 3 cameras and then you stack it on top of each other. We do it all the time for like real estate photography, but then you do it with these crazy high contrast, your phone does it. And they're like, why is this like burn my retinas when I look at it? That's why, because it's taking like a high contrast, mid contrast, low contrast.
Like that.
Oh no, I don't like it for my wedding films, but but for this is different because it's film. It's not the freaking iPhone 3 crappy iPhone pictures put on top of each other. It's film. And I will have to say the colors in this, although vibrant, weren't comic book or gaudy, if that makes sense.
No.
They were still very good.
They were
purposeful.
They did the reds as sparingly as they could for the fact that the movie is called The Red Shoes.
Oh, but those reds popped. Man, those red shoes were rad.
They were well used, I thought.
Yeah, it didn't gross me out.
No.
And like in a way, I think to me, like The Searchers is so vibrant in its own way. Like this, but felt appealing and painterly, which, you know, maybe the art director, you know, his influence kind of carried through with the cinematography there. But man, I just, it was one of those where it's like, oh, why don't people do this? And it's probably because they don't have the talent to make it, to do it well. And so you color grade everything blue, so it's moody.
It's true, because now, if even in like the highest production value films, you will just see him wash it one color or the other. The closest thing maybe would be like a Wes Anderson film where he picks a palette and then goes contrasty as heck. But even that isn't as vibrant as this, because even like Asteroid City, I don't know if you guys have seen that one yet. It's super.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's super like you can see the pictures and it's like classic Wes Anderson.
Well, but he does like pastels.
Yes,
too,
exactly right.
So it's bright, but it's the pastel bright as opposed to like
feels vintagey. Doesn't feel like. But this
it's also like the equivalent of like matte versus glossy too. The way it's kind of what I think in my head. Like, no, it's not like gradient.
But for sure. So the camera, the coloring, and the painter make this movie so visually stimulating. And oh, by the way, the way they shot the dance scenes, I think I love. I'm not 1,000%, but I think I love how they just disappeared, took away the crowd and the stage, and then they shot some of these scenes like a movie, like a horror movie for some of the ghouls coming in. I was so impressed by the angles, the shots. It felt very movie-esque, but still you were in the realm that this is still a dance.
Yeah.
Unlike Singing in the Rain, when they went to that weird stuff, like, what is this doing here?
Yeah, but it's like, like when Scorsese's talking about how he took that kind of, you know, they don't go to the audience. It's all about the stage and the
all
dance.
about the stage.
And he's talking about the Raging Bull in his first fight with Sugar Ray.
So good.
And it's like you don't see outside of the ring the whole time. You're just in that in his head, and like the way he talked about like. And also, I hated sports, but I appreciated the choreography. And so, knowing how obsessed he is with red shoes too, it's like, that makes sense now.
Those kind of whip pans as they, as just keep getting closer. That was like, he totally used that in Raging Bull. And even just the void and, the speed at which that happened is very different. But there's a really good horror movie called It Follows that does a lot of scenes where you're just sort of slowly panning around. And as you keep turning, you can tell this thing, it is getting closer and closer. And there is this like unsettling thing to, every time she looked at a new direction, the ghouls are getting closer.
It's called Doctor Who, and it's the Angels episode. That's what it actually is.
Can I insert the fun fact here?
Yeah.
Tell me it's Doctor Who. Is it really?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Look at me, Segway
Marius
King.
Goring, the guy that played Julian.
Julian.
He was in, I think, a 6-episode arc of Doctor Who.
Get out.
In the 60s. Indeed.
36-year-old teenager.
So I think how old he was then.
Did he have like whitish gray makeup on? Like,
Oh,
he
yeah.
looked
Oh, for sure.
The cakey
horrible.
makeup was not great.
Hey, Pat, are you?
And then same with Lermontov. It like he felt like a vampire, and they treated him kind of like a vampire. Like whenever he was out in public, he had the big glasses on, his face is super pale.
Yeah, I wasn't
yeah,
a
yeah.
fan of those glasses.
No, they were a little bit creepy.
Very effeminate
Yeah.
frames.
Oh, actually, I loved his sunglasses. I was
Did you?
talking about the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
I've had a pair. I like them. Come on, people. We know that. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, real quick. Hey, Pat, what's up? What's up with your? Is it? It's probably me.
You lost
Mine says no one else is in this meeting.
Oh, but are you still recording yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just. Oh shoot! It just said allow. So as long as you're still recording, we should be fine.
Yeah, I just can't see you guys.
That's fine.
Oh, now I see you.
Okay, so as long as you get your
hey.
correction. Okay, so I'm gonna do a big clap so I remember to edit this. Oh.
I think we'll remember.
If I leave this in, it'll be hilarious.
Be good.
Outtakes. Do you have your outtake reel going?
Thank you, Duff Beer, for that advertisement. And now we're back.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about 30-year-old
The
teenagers,
glasses.
the glasses,
The makeup,
diva
the glasses.
glasses. Oh.
Well, yeah, just the makeup. Like, I get it when they're in the ballet and they have like the crazy makeup. I actually really loved his the super cut jaw makeup.
Yeah,
that he
rad.
has. I think in Red Shoes,
Yeah.
super cool. But then when they're supposed to be in real life, their faces are crazy town looking to me. I thought like this makeup is.
They both guys were way too old for the part, but they did such a good job that they're like, let's just roll with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we recognize they're not the right age for this, but it was
Which honestly
considered.
didn't really bother me.
It didn't bother me
It was
either.
just
Yeah.
The makeup
because
did.
it's the makeup bothered me. But like the fact that he was like a college student or something close to that mattered for that first scene, and that was it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
It
could
was
have been like
he is a younger person in his career,
yeah.
and who cares?
Some of us go back to school later in life,
Some
And
of us
that's
never
okay.
leave the school.
and that's okay.
That reminds me of the latest Community episode I watched. Oh, sorry. We're going back to Red Shoes. Red Shoes. So,
do you want me to do my my animation-y
yes, please.
takeaways?
This is called The Animation Corner with Mr. Pat. We need a better title. Do we have a better title than that?
It's not great. I'll ask
Yeah,
All right.
an AI.
I think we
or
need
something.
to
Yeah.
do a
Animators.
do a panel.
Animators
See.
Attic?
Well,
No.
yeah. So I don't know if I'll keep going with this trend, but I maybe framing it with some of the principles, the 12, which I'm not going to name.
Not today.
But like, so one thing we kind of talked about, maybe we haven't really talked about. To me, the performance was so over the top. Not every character, but certainly everybody in the ballet, which I kind of loved, like Boris. You know, as he talked, he's so physical
good. Yeah.
with his communication. Like he's pantomiming. He just happens to be saying things too. And like the movie wasn't really meant to be realistic, and it,
Correct.
No.
or at least that's my feeling, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was shocked when we're doing the Red Shoes ballet, and he does like stick the ballet shoes into the scene. Actually, at first I was like, oh, how are they getting her reflection in this window dancing with the shoes
Yeah,
on? Like,
that was awesome.
there's a part of me that was like, oh, is this real? And then I'm like, oh, wait, we're not doing the real ballet anymore.
No.
And she, jump cut it into the shoes and stuff. But they just really, I think, leaned into that, which is, I think, why I was sort of disappointed that she and Craster weren't maybe more over the top in their roles. Like, they're pretty subdued compared to everybody else. They're sort of
That's
the straight
true. They really are the
performers.
straight people. Yeah. Almost to a
And Lermontov
detriment.
had a quiet craziness to him, but anyway, I think most of the movie had a very appealing exaggeration, and then because it was so dance centric, such strong what we'd call key poses, just strong silhouettes throughout, right? Like,
ooh,
how people show up in frame was never foreshortened arms. Like everybody was playing to the camera,
yeah,
all the time because it was choreographed,
of course.
which is
Fascinating.
the beauty of that stuff. And so that was great. And then, of course, the staging, where they were, how they were lit, how they were juxtaposed against things. So, the big ones to me, exaggeration, staging, and key poses, but that's sort of the pose to pose or straight ahead. But that would be my animation takeaways for this movie.
So,
which I all did really love and thought they did well.
So we're not wrong, and the two main protagonists were very under animated in all things.
Unless she was dancing, and maybe that you could argue that was a choice. Like, she's so reserved when she's not dancing, and then when she dances, she comes alive.
Mm-hmm.
What about him? What about the director? I mean, what about the conductor?
The composer?
Yeah, did he have a little more? Because sometimes he had some.
I mean, he was a little extra, but it wasn't.
Je ne sais pas. What do you say?
Je ne sais quoi. He. I mean, you could argue was in there. I just felt like their sort of reserved Britishness took over for the most part, and it felt more like they were talking. Again, too much tell, not enough show. They were talking about their interests and their feelings more than they conveyed them.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of when they're, I think, in their music. And again, I think someone could argue, like, that's the point, Pat. Like, when they were in their passion areas is when they were the most heightened. But it didn't feel intentional.
No. Yeah.
No. But even despite the extraness, I know part of the criticism of this movie originally was that it was so not British for being a British movie, because it was over the top, because it was extravagant and colorful, and it was very out of character.
Was it Scorsese who compared it to almost like an American Italian? Like, it was like an Italian with the deep emotions that were just so heart-wrenching, which isn't very British style. And then you had this over-the-top acting as well. So it was almost like a silent film mixed with an Italian film. Bicycle Thieves, if it was a silent film and they were dancing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was also compared to silent films too. They did so much without saying anything and kind of used that.
Was there blackface in this movie? Was there one character that had one background guy that had blackface?
I don't think so.
Okay. It's hard because there's so many masks and things that are going on.
There were a lot of masks.
Because there was one, she was in the Red Shoes ballet. And it was great because spoiler alert, folks, the Red Shoes play also is basically the theme of the Red Shoes story here. It's the, I'm going to dance till I die.
Yeah.
Well, if you
unintentionally.
kind of a weird.
Always.
Kind of a weird. Is there a moral? Like, don't let your passions drive your life because they'll kill you. Like, what's the lesson? Don't just be around jerks.
Yeah, well, it's not teaching you a good lesson. It's like you can only have one thing to make you.
Yeah, don't aspire.
Yeah.
To things because they might ruin your life.
Yeah.
How the heck was she alive at the end to talk to him? That's what I don't understand. There's no way.
She should have been hamburger meat.
Yeah.
Well, she obviously didn't get hit by the train.
Well,
she
this
must
was
have missed
also
the train
a
altogether.
1948 movie. They're not going to show you her crushed body.
Except she very clearly dropped before the train got
Yeah, and he found her halfway down the train.
Yeah.
She was in it.
Into the middle of the train.
How'd they get her out of there? She would have been glued to the rails.
She had smudges of red on her.
Yeah.
And she looked great. For having gotten run over by a train and fallen off like a 60-foot balcony, she looked great.
It's true.
And it kind of was this weird, you had to know she was going to die because you looked at somebody in the crowd and they're like, mm-mm.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
right?
The doctor's thanks, buddy. We could have figured that out.
She got ran over by a train. No one survived that one.
No.
Jeez.
It wasn't
Her insides are liquid. She's not going to be okay.
Kids train. It was a real train.
Okay. I also kind of had... I kept thinking about... I was so annoyed that she killed herself. That it was almost as annoyed as I was when I read... what's that? The Russian novel where she kills herself in the end. Sorry.
Anna Karenina?
Anna Karenina. Oh my gosh. I read the whole book and I got to the end. I'm like, this is how it ends?
Spoilers for Anna
This
Karenina.
is how it ends? Are you freaking... You're an idiot.
The people that are reading it have already...
Yeah, they're probably
going to
already
read it.
They're good.
Everyone else has just started it and they're not going to finish.
I was so annoyed reading all of Anna Karenina, getting all these characters. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then, what? You selfish... What? Why? Why did you go to this point? And that's exactly how I felt when I was. I'm like, she's gonna jump off the cliff. Like as soon as she ran away from the French helper, I don't know. I don't want to call her a French maid, but
assistant?
the assistant. She was running away. I'm like, the funny thing is, I'm like, oh, she's going for the window, but then she didn't go to the window and she went a different direction.
For a split second, I thought she's gonna go catch him.
Me too.
She changed her mind. No.
Nope. Finding a different balcony other than the balcony we saw.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and I think that's
so angry.
You know, like whether or not the shoes did it and murdered her or she was trying to commit suicide, I don't think they dealt. And certainly I would, I guess, expect it, said in 1948 movie. They didn't deal with, like, mental health in any way that you understood that she was in a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
She had a fight.
She cracked.
And then broke completely in a way where, like, whoa.
Yeah.
And to your point, Mariah, like, all that was wound tight. And I think that's where, like, Black Swan, you're inside of her psyche throughout the movie in a way that it all like it pays off in like a meaningful way, where this you're like, well, I had no idea, which is, you know, unfortunately probably how a lot of people feel when something like that happens, right? I had no idea what they're going through. But as an audience member, you feel confused in a way that I don't think is ideal.
Yeah.
And also, fun fact, intentional goof, she shouldn't have been wearing the red shoes.
No.
She was going to put on the white ones, and they had them out. How'd those red shoes get on?
Yep.
According to the directors, they're like, she just needed to be in them. Who cares?
Yeah, that's what he said. It was like, we did it anyway. I know it wasn't supposed to be like that.
That's so good. They put them on her themselves.
They jumped on.
They're like little gremlins of the feet.
Yeah. Another thing I liked, well, the first thing that I noticed was as the movie was starting, it's got the opening credits and all characters and events in this picture, you know, fictional and similar to people, is just purely coincidental. But there are so many people that they took as inspiration for so many different things in this movie. Like certainly the honcho guy, is taken from like 3 different people, including one of the directors. You know, has some aspects of him in it too. But I also found it so interesting that like, so when she dies and he comes out all manic and crazy and says, we're still going to play this just without her. And they play the whole ballet with just the spotlight. That happened in real life. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What ballet?
Cool.
So, where is it? There was a prima ballerina, Anna Pavlova, who died unexpectedly. According to tradition, the performance of The Dying Swan was performed as scheduled, but without her. Part of it was lit by a single spotlight, and the rest of the show went on.
No.
So it wasn't like out of nowhere that they did this. It was something that happened.
I thought that was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Certainly once you read it.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being at that
movie,
show?
No.
Can you imagine being at that
So
show?
crazy.
I mean, it'd be super powerful.
That would be crazy.
I think what I didn't like about it in this context was like he killed her basically, right? Like he drove her nuts.
And I don't know that he knew in that moment she was dead. I think it was like, she's just not going to be here. She's dead to me. Did they know she was dead?
Yeah, because you see some of the background actors like crying and getting like escorted out.
And she'll never do it again ever. I don't think it was like a.
But he told her if she walks out again, she can never come back.
I'm imagining someone like the
He
French
wouldn't-
lady
wouldn't.
ran out and was like,
She
yeah,
didn't go
she jumped
far. Someone would have seen probably.
She went down a lot of stairs.
news-
A lot more stairs than I expected.
Yeah.
quite a few steps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was like, man, that would have been so powerful. But again, it felt gross in the movie to me because he wasn't.
He was
I don't know, it just
cracking.
felt like, well,
he was so manic in that whole speech. He was
Yeah.
yelling and
when he should have been, because it's like his
Yeah.
fault.
It was
But
Yeah.
great though, and
I
it was
think we're-
so slow to
yeah,
each word.
yeah.
I
Shaking.
in the in the real situation, to me, that's super powerful and meaningful because I assume that ballet didn't have to do with her unexpected death, right? So they're honoring her in this, and I think that the other dancers are certainly honoring her, but it just felt really weird because you literally
Pushed her
just
to
drove
this.
her to
Yeah,
the edge,
yeah.
and so you shouldn't be there anymore. You should go jump in front of
Did
the train.
he? Did he or did her husband? That's what I still can't get.
He had a hand in
This
it
is
too.
the part he has always been like that, but the husband turning on her was the part that messed her up. I still think
Men are big babies. That's a hot take.
But
so.
You're not gonna do what I say. Boo.
Let's just say for an instant that he's like, "Oh, you really want to do this, huh? Cool." Or like, what? Yeah, the escalation still was so confusing, but him being so black and white, because why was he so upset at her for going back to? And so that's why, yeah, we talked about that earlier.
well, I mean, he was wronged by Lamentov, right? He was fired for it.
Yeah, and they agreed to leave together, and then
Yeah.
she got
But it
sucked
really worked
in.
out better for him. He's doing a freaking opera instead of doing a ballet.
Yeah,
So it's not like it was doing bad for him.
Even if it ended in sort of tragedy, and obviously they're like, we're going to kill her somehow. And I think they kind of got written into a corner in a way like, oh, shoot, we didn't quite
We got to kill her.
get to the point where she's going to.
We're not
be
an
dead.
American company. We got to kill her.
But like, even if they ended up splitting, but he watched her perform and just realized, like, yes, this is.
What she's meant to
He's never
do.
been more alive, but like, he was putting on this brave face that I don't know. It's just one of those like we didn't get to see her struggling with not dancing, which you've seen that story told in other movies. And
You
so
have.
get it.
There's
so
the
even when
one.
it doesn't work.
There's the one scene where they're both laying in bed, all their separate beds because it's 1948.
That was hilarious. We
And
see him
she's-
we see him sleeping together on the freaking
Painted.
cart, but now
Yeah.
when they're married, they're on two different beds.
Right.
What's up with that?
Yeah,
Their
but
painted room.
but she's kind of looking off, thinking about the dance. I'm assuming, and then he gets up and writes a whole whatever ballet
Yeah. And then
Opera.
opera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
But,
story.
like, even then, she's like, well, I'm with you. So that's fine. And to me, it's like, why can't she dance other places? Is this the only ballet company in the world? Anyway, it just felt like
Not the only,
we
but
didn't
the
have
best.
we didn't get enough of that to, I
Yeah.
think, pay off that moment.
Yeah.
No, but as a movie, I just keep thinking, like, again, I'm annoyed by every love story that ends with, like, the Romeo and Juliet. I'm like, oh, okay, we get it. It's love stupid. But then as a movie, I was so impressed with a dance-heavy movie like this being so interesting.
Yeah.
I found myself more bored in parts of Singing in the Rain than I did of this. And I keep comparing it to that because that's considered the best musical of all time. But then,
Well, and in Singing in the Rain, it's also a production base. It's not just they're following the dance and the music. They're making a movie.
right.
And in this, they're making a ballet.
Oh,
So there's all the behind the scenes, the technical
I love
stuff. And so I think
The inside baseball of it.
but
yeah.
this is supposed to be inside baseball of the ballet.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, I would argue, well, I don't know, more inside baseball, but the fact that all these actors were from
dancers, not actors.
They're all dancers.
Dancers that could act, not actors that could dance.
Well, they were dancers that could dance. They could act too, but they weren't really acting. They were just dancing in the background. But they're all from like
it's like dancers with
London
personality.
Royal Theatre.
Come here.
Yeah.
And
I didn't. That's where I didn't mind like the two dance leads who are so over the top.
They're great.
I love those guys.
They were super charming, right? Like it fit their characters, and so it was like
and the costume designer and the other conductor and like everybody had pretty great personality. Like you did okay, and it's like it was like I'm kidding, you did good.
Yeah, no one. I think outside of maybe Moira Shearer, who was fine and a great dancer. I think she was doubled for some really hard parts, but mostly she did a lot.
Yeah, well, because she's great.
I mean, she was like, it wasn't like their acting took me out of it, outside of how period British everyone was, really, is that how you're going to act? And how you sound and say things. But
it was just
like,
so 40s. But 40s was very stylized, I felt like, and this was extremely stylized.
Yeah.
We sure gave it to them Jerry's, didn't we?
Yeah. I thought the casting turned out great. I liked it.
Yeah.
Oh, I just can't get over.
Yeah, there was
the
so
visuals
much.
Are so good.
So much I liked about the movie, but at the end, but I also I don't think I loved the movie.
No, there's problems, but they did a really good job with what they were delivering.
Oh, I think it's so.
It's not their fault that they didn't.
How many musicals have you seen? Like a trillion? Like I feel like we've seen a lot of musicals, right? Mm-hmm. But which musical, aside from the ones we watch every year, Holiday Inn and White Christmas,
is this considered a musical if they're not singing?
I guess not, but it still feels the same, setup.
It follows the same template.
Same template.
But also it follows silent. The parts where it's just the dancing and telling a story.
The thing is, we always have the Fred Astaire movies with like a singer, and then this one just doesn't have the singer. Mm-hmm. Like that's the only difference between this and
it's not Ginger.
We
it's
had
Moira.
Crasser sang some.
Yeah, that's true. And we still had, and it still felt like
so charming.
It still felt like a White Christmas or a Holiday Inn because he's composing at the piano while she's dancing. So instead of he's composing at the piano 100%. While she's singing, he's composing at the piano while she's dancing. So it still feels like the same troop.
It's a duet of it all.
Yeah,
in, a lot of ways.
But this one felt so much like the craft felt so much better at all angles. You didn't have those like cheesy moment times. You're like, okay, this is beyond dumb. Mm-hmm. But this is but every time I'm like, wow, this is a very visually stimulating movie and some very hard to do shots. Not just I'm looking at Bing Crosby standing by a piano. Yeah. So like the cinematography is like so next level.
Yeah.
The color is so next level. The dancing is incredible. The story is, I mean, all musicals are terrible for stories. Yeah, but maybe that's kind of the point of it. It's not like hijinks. There's no hijinks. Maybe that's it. There's no hijinks. There's no because usually in these movies you have some goofy hijinks something. But there is none of that in this. It still feels...
it's the darkness of... What's his face? Lermontov. Maybe he's the saving
grace.
Those scenes are replaced with him being dark and
maybe that's this movie's saving grace.
Because his whole mirror punching scene. Did you listen to that about how they filmed it?
There's a cut. There's a jump cut
too.
Obviously, yeah.
The cut, and they said it worked better than it would have if it actually punched the mirror.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, that's what Scorsese said. I don't know.
I liked it. That. I thought it was cool.
I went back when that happened. I was like, did they jump cut? And I went back and I was like, oh, yep.
Well, because he's way closer to it than he was at the end of it.
You're not going to punch it with your knuckles. You're going to hit it with them.
And then he just kind of wraps it real quick. There's no real blood. They used it all on our stockings.
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio's like, please.
The fake blood budget was used.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Leonardo DiCaprio jangling
and his
chains,
outfits.
Like, I'll show you. Oh, that was great. The kimono thing.
Yeah.
What was that thing?
He had some
Is it Greek?
cool.
When the
things.
composer walks in for the first time, he's wearing that like green.
Yeah.
The only time, they did pick the outfits quite. They were very good for each scene because the only time where he felt approachable, he was wearing like that scarf and that like normal clothes. But that was the only
time. Yeah.
The rest
it's like
of the time.
when he gave her the part.
Yep.
In the red shoes, right?
Yep. And then after that, he was never looked approachable. The rest.
Yeah.
Even there's just some interesting. Well, the thing I really liked about the movie, just the big swings visually that they took, and like her dancing with the paper.
Oh, that's great.
And
so
and
good.
Some of the fade in.
How do they do that?
Wires.
And that was a different frame rate than hers
Mm-hmm.
because they had to like change the frame rate. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, slowing it down. That was cool.
I was impressed too because when they slowed down the frame rate, you didn't see any. It didn't feel wrong.
I didn't notice.
Well, I mean, they were over cranking the camera, so
For
when
sure.
they did slow it down, it looked good. It wasn't, like I think unlike movies in the 80s, 90s where they do fake slow mo, so it's all
undercrank it.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh, like hard. What was our Asian
boiled?
Hard boiled.
Yeah. Oh yes.
When we had a bunch of those undercranked slow mo things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so great. But I think it just wasn't. It felt like a movie of experiments as opposed to a refined overall product. Again, like I want to show like Kira and Kimberly like the ballet.
Oh, for sure.
Be like, look at this dancing. Look at these visuals. The movie though, it's like no, you don't need to see anything else.
Interesting.
Like really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It to me, it doesn't all add up in a way that makes it better than the sum of its parts. But man, the sum of its parts, or some of the parts,
not the sum of the parts, but some.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question is for you guys then is what does this make your snobby movie list, and does it make your top 10 list? I think I already know the answer, but
yes, snobby,
it
not
does
top
not make
10.
my top. Yeah.
what is it even? I know we've only watched about 20, 30 movies on this podcast, but does this make you, maybe 40 or 50? We're getting up there, folks. We could be up to 50 movies right now. Does this make your top 50 snobby movies of all time?
Sure. Yeah. 50, yes. Oh.
Yeah. I think so. I think there's a lot of reasons you can include it, like how it basically set how you film dancing in movies.
The inspiration for choreography.
The Archer, Pressburger, and whoever, like this directing duo, being kind of iconic in British cinema at the time. The use of Technicolor, like there's a bunch of things where you're like, okay, yeah, you guys did some very like bar setting stuff in this movie.
For sure.
And so, yeah. And it's like, it's a movie from 1948. If you haven't watched already, watching it, it's a little snobby.
Yeah.
Also, it's 1948. It punches way past its year. Like if you told me this was 1965, I'd be like, oh, it's killer. You know what I mean? Like there's something about it.
Yes, the craftsmanship is
for the year. Yeah,
and so it holds up.
I feel like these are one of those movies, much like Joan of Arc, that you're like, wait, what year was it filmed?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they're
really?
very obviously in the 40s, but you wouldn't. I mean, it could have been a movie just set in the 40s. It wasn't because like, oh, this is obviously taking place at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this makes my top 10 list, but it's one of those movies. I think of like stylistically, it's part of the landscape. Like I put Ozu in his simplistic. Like you have to have an Ozu in your top 10 because there's that simplistic
he was influenced
look.
by this too.
By this as well. But then this has to be in the mix of like top 20 because there's nothing like it before it, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of like experimental dancey things, but nothing as well crafted to change the way you look. To film dance like this and make you feel like you're part of the ballet. I've never seen a movie do that in that way, other than like jump cuts in crazy modern stuff.
Right. Well, and you think about all these other movies that came after that are about making it, in dance or in the movies or as an actor, and it shows so much behind the scenes. Yes. Shows all of this, how they got there, how hard it is, the struggle, deciding, if you're going to pour it all into this or you're going to have a social life. And, there's so many pieces that set up those great stories later.
This really is Breaking. And Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. Like, this is basically the same movie.
I don't know.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I just really liked, just along those lines, was like...
You gotta watch Breaking.
It wasn't... You don't have to watch Breaking. It was...
I won't. Don't worry.
It was not just the dance, right? You saw the art direction and the costume design and the composition and the dance and the choreography. Like, I just really liked that it was this more complete understanding of a ballet. And like, I mean, I wish the movie was better because I think the premise of the movie is amazing. Like, you have your three leads are the director, a composer, and your lead dancer in this quasi love triangle, dealing with this world of high art and the sacrifices you need to make. And it's danced beautifully. Like, this should be, a killer for me.
I wish she fell in love with the director. That would have made the suicide more plausible to me. If there was more of a love connection.
There was too much of an impossible choice. He felt guilt or something.
I don't know. That would have been a little bit. Is that too much to ask? Fall in love with the older guy.
It is.
Okay.
Well, I think
I liked that he was a monster.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, he was not putting on airs. Like, you knew who he was from the start, and he asked her very directly before she ever danced for him. Like, what do you want?
I think he felt like she was like him, and then he was just so disappointed that she wasn't.
Yeah, he wanted another soulless dancer.
Yeah,
as he was
also,
a soulless director.
Did you have a thing? He kept talking about, like, I'm going to make you the best dancer in the world.
Yeah. You are not a choreographer
help her dance.
or a dance
No,
instructor.
he was just the name behind it. What was his power? I guess he did. I got to give him credit. He made decisions
He's like a producer.
Quickly.
And he forced everyone into creative constraints that made them flourish, I guess.
I guess.
Didn't they say the Red Shoes was like done in 3 weeks?
Yeah, that's true. Like, that's stupid.
There's no way in hell this is composed and choreographed and put on in 3 weeks, and you're just swapping this they did that once. They didn't tour the Red Shoes.
They're still touring Hamilton.
What?
And that was 20 years
ago. A lot of like sus, throwaway of work. Like, don't you tour this one show?
Yeah, they didn't even go to the States yet. Like, that's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, like, no, that's done.
It was a success here.
They're keeping it exclusive like it was in the movie. Yeah. No one else is going to see it. Only here.
Oh, all right. So is it snobby?
See.
Yeah.
See. I mean,
it is snobby.
Oui, Mrs. Snobby. Is it a must-watch front to back?
Well, I think you need to, but I don't think you need to have expectation that your story's going to be the thing that you love about it.
Is there a better...
No, and I think that's true of a lot of our snobby movies. They're not all the best overall movies, although this was nominated for Best Picture. So there's an argument it was. But everything's got flaws, and I think you just have to kind of go in knowing this will shine brighter in some areas than others.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a movie that you need to watch if you're starting your path of being a movie snob? How soon do you need to watch this?
Before Raging Bull.
Oh, before Raging Bull.
That's a good
one.
Yes, that's an interesting thing.
That's good.
Because obviously Scorsese
Historically.
was so influenced by it.
Mm-hmm.
Good one.
Ooh,
I like that.
Okay, we're going to side conversation here. Do true movie snobs need to watch everything chronologically so they know the past before the present?
I think some of the time it helps. But I wouldn't say you have to watch Seven Samurai before Magnificent Seven. I think you should watch them both to appreciate how they're both great. But for me, I think it depends.
So
if you could somehow wipe your understanding of modern cinema, then maybe watching it chronologically would be like the most untainted version. Like, oh, and then they introduced these kind of techniques.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think what's really fun about this journey is like when we watch these things, we're like, oh, that's where these things were kind of defined and built and referenced. But I think if you started from a modern sensibility, you're gonna be like, these movies are boring.
Yeah. Well, it's also like asking, do you watch all the Marvel movies chronologically?
Yeah, always.
Number one, yes. Can you?
Just skip Iron Man 3.
Should you?
And
I did release chronological, not timeline.
Oh. Yeah. You gotta do release.
That's where I
release,
was
not timeline.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I feel like I'm better at that. Sure.
But I didn't watch the new Mario movie until I watched the old Mario movie. I mean, it just makes sense.
Well, yeah, they follow each other very well. It's continuity. You need the continuity for sure.
Story might have made more sense in the live action one, but it was more fun watching them.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this movie. So
Jack Black song.
Peaches never sound so good. This could have used a little Jack Black in it, I'll be honest. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I just want to say that. I don't know if I've said that yet in this podcast, but I really enjoyed this movie, and I enjoyed. It
was easy to watch.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to go as dark as it did. Because if this was like the usual musical that I'm used to seeing, they get together in the end, they say "screw you" to the bad guy, and they go off and start their own company, and they have Bing Crosby.
Sure.
And
but I think you have an idea, knowing that the ballet is based on Hans Christian Andersen's story, that it's going to be dark.
Hey, Little Mermaid was based off Hans Christian Andersen, and that didn't go dark just because they changed it completely. Yeah, and this wasn't made by Disney. This was made by a British company. That's the other thing, too. We have to that really made a big difference.
Yeah. If
this was made in America, I assume it'd be a totally different movie. And it would probably not
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
Also, did I don't know how much this happened before, but the meta of it, right?
Super meta
in the show. That was all pretty great.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was amazing because I was like, this is Red Shoes. Oh, this is Red Shoes being rich. I see what you did there. At the end, I'm like, oh, no wonder she has to die. When you knew she was going to die, when both of them were in the room, that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing finally. I knew she was going to die. But
I had more of his trouble. I wish they would have introduced more of the turmoil earlier.
Sure.
I think she should have had more of a fight with deciding to leave in the first place. And then
the movie was already 2.5 hours long, wasn't it?
2:15. I
yeah, I mean,
that was not
some conversation with her husband about, oh, I'm kind of wishing I was doing this.
Yeah. But I think you got all that.
Yeah, you do.
When she died.
You do. They spell it out. You see that she's sad when she jumps.
Yeah, no.
Or when she's thrown.
Or when the shoes.
Well, okay, here's one last question, and then we really got to go.
Yeah, there we go.
Why did she want him to take the shoes off?
I love that. I love that because they've already done what they're supposed to do. Their purpose is over. They've had her way with her, so now they're moving on.
I think
she was finally done dancing.
I think she got dirt or gravel in there when she fell, and it was uncomfortable. I think he was like, "Could you take my shoes off?"
Pour the soup that was her feet.
Oh my gosh.
My feet are swelling.
No, I thought that was great. I think that taking the red shoes off was perfect. I'm like, way to wrap that in a nice little bundle so then they can sell them again to the next sucker. Because it's the allure of fame, Pat. It's the allure of the next. What do I choose? And that's where La La Land was based. Instead of a red shoes, it was a keytar. You know, that's the difference between.
I think we did it.
Stretches real far sometimes.
I have not referenced Monty Python or Holy Grail yet this episode, so I feel like I'm doing pretty good.
But Super Mario, you did.
Twice and the live action. You better believe it. This guy's watch Red Shoes. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah,
it is the best dance movie.
Yep.
It's one of the best colored films of all time. I will say that. That's another bold statement. It is a sad movie, so there it works for snobs because sad movies obviously are more snobby.
It's sad.
It influenced one of the greatest directors of all time. And
which one are you thinking?
I was thinking Scorsese.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say
or Ozu.
Ozu too. I mean, same. Ozu was more of a contemporary than just an influence, though, so that's kind of the same timing. But it's one of those movies that you can't believe how good it is and how watchable it is, despite it being so old. But it still is an old movie, so there we go, folks. It's still on your snobby list because it's not going to be, your 12-year-old's not going to want to watch it, probably. I don't know. Maybe it's not a 12-year-old. Whatever.
Depends on your 12-year-old.
Depends on your 12-year-old. We'll leave with that. Sounds good. Guys, signing off from the Make It Known studio. This is Seth.
Mariah.
And from Seattle.
Pat.
Guys, have a good one. Keep watching movies. We'll see you next week with your next movie to become a movie snob. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.